On this video, we're going to graph tangent and cotangent. These are the two that give people the most trouble. Next time we'll talk about graphing cosecant and secant. They're much simpler. They're much more closely related to the graphs of sine and cosine. These are just similar enough yet different to make them really easy to confuse. So let's see what we got. Remember now that tangent is sine over cosine. So what we want to do is figure out where are the vertical asymptotes going to be and where are the x-intercepts going to be. So we will have vertical asymptotes when the denominator is 0. And as we've said before, that's going to be at pi over 2 and at negative pi over 2. So I'm going to put those vertical asymptotes in. And I'm going to think of those as being the beginning and ending of a period. Now, it will be equal to 0 when the numerator is 0, and sine is 0 at 0. So I'm going to use the words, I'm going to say sine, the tangent starts in the middle. Now, we know that a fourth of a period, or normal period, for for tangent rather, and for cotangent, is going to be pi. So I'm going to say a fourth of the period to the right, it's going to be at 1. And a fourth of the period to the left, so this is now at pi over 4, and a fourth of the period to the left, that's at negative pi over 4, it's going to be equal to negative 1. And then it's going to do that kind of swirling and rise from left to right. So again, the words I'm going to use for a tangent is it's going to start in the middle, and it's going to, I'm going to go 2 critical points to the right for an asymptote and 2 critical points to the left for an asymptote, and it'll rise from left to right. Now, a cotangent is going to be a cosine over sine. So again, it's going to have vertical asymptotes when sine is equal to 0, and that is going to be at multiples of pi. So 0, pi, negative pi, so on. So at 0, it's going to have an asymptote, and at pi, it's going to have an asymptote. So halfway in between is going to be at pi over 2. That's when this is going to have the numerator be 0. That's going to be our x-intercept. So just the reverse of a tangent. Its vertical asymptotes are going to be multiples of pi, and its x-intercepts are going to be at the over 2's, I like to call them. Pi over 2, 3 pi over 2, 5 pi over 2, negative pi over 2, and so on. Now, at pi over 4, that's, remember, where sine and cosine are both square root of 2 over 2. That's going to be where a cotangent is positive 1, just as the tangent is. Now, at 3 pi over 4, so a critical point to the left of the middle, then at 3 pi over 4, the cosine is negative square root of 2 over 2. The sine is positive square root of 2 over 2. And so that is going to be a negative 1. And so we're going to see that a cotangent falls from left to right. So they are just similar enough in their shapes and where their asymptotes and x-intercepts are, but yet different, that these are going to be easy to confuse. And these are the ones that people struggle with the most. So I'm going to use the words that a cotangent curve starts and ends with an asymptote and is 0 in the middle, and it's going to fall from left to right. I'm going to say a tangent is going to start in the middle, and we're going to get asymptotes that are 2 critical points right and 2 critical points left, and it's going to rise from left to right. Okay, let's see what we can do when we throw in all the other complications. So here is our tangent curve, and we know that its period is going to be naturally pi, but because of the 1/2, this is going to have a period of 2 pi. So its critical points, which are again going to be every fourth of a period, is going to be every pi over 2. So our tick marks are going to be spaced pi over 2. It's going to start at pi over 4. So I'm going to say here is pi over 4. Then I'm going to add a pi over 2 to that. So there's going to be 3 pi over 4, and add another pi over 2 to that, we'll make that 5 pi over 4, and that's going to be one of our asymptotes. I'm going to reset back to the middle, and going left pi over 2 will put us at a negative pi over 4, and another pi over 2 to the left will put us at a negative 3 pi over 4, and that's going to be another vertical asymptote. We're going to start in the middle, and for us, the middle is going to be pi over 4, comma 1. So there is 1, and so there's going to be our middle. This has been stretched vertically by 2, so when I go 1 tick mark to the right to 3 pi over 4, I need to go up 2, so that's going to put us at 3 pi over 4, comma 3. Resetting back to the middle, going left a tick mark to negative pi over 4, you need to go down 2, that's going to put us at negative pi over 4, negative 1. And this is going to rise from left to right. So I'm going to connect this with a smooth curve. And there is our tangent. Now let's move our attention to the cotangent. And so here we can see that our period is going to be the natural period pi divided by 2, the thing that's multiplying the x. So our critical points are going to be every fourth of a period, which is going to be every pi over 8. So our tick marks are going to be spaced pi over 8 apart. We're going to start at negative pi over 8. So I'm going to call this negative pi over 8. And remember, a cotangent is going to start with an asymptote. Then I'm going to go over 1 tick mark, puts us at 0. Then another one is going to be pi over 8. Another one is going to be 2 pi over 8 or pi over 4. And now it's 1, 2, 3. There's our ending asymptote is going to be at 3 pi over 8. We know that in the middle it's going to be 0. So at pi over, I'm sorry, it's not 0 though. Let me see if I can fix that. So our middle is going to be at negative 1. So at pi over 8, we're going to be at negative 1. That's going to be right there. And 1 tick mark to the left, we're going to be up a half. So that's going to put us at negative 1/2. And I don't have a good place to label that. I'm going to call it negative 1/2. And 1 tick mark to the right at pi over 4, we're going to be at, that's going to be negative 3/2. And it's going to fall from left to right. And there's our cotangent curve. Okay, let's try another one, or another couple. Now these have not been factored, so we're going to start by factoring. So when we pull out that pi over 4, we're going to have x minus 1. So our period is going to be pi divided by the pi over 4, which is going to be 4. So our tick marks are going to be every 1. We're going to start, 1 is going to be the middle of our graph. So I'm going to move it down here. I'm going to call that 1. And then we're going to go 2, and at 3, we're going to get an asymptote. So here's 0, there's negative 1, that's going to be an asymptote. So our middle is going to be at 1, comma 1. So there is the middle of our tangent curve. Now this is going to be reflected because of the negative there. So I'm going to go 1 tick mark to the left, and I'm going to go just up a half because of that half in front. So that's going to be at 3/2. And then at, whoops, I don't want to make that. It's going to be at 1/2 we're going to be over here at 2. I already had that labeled down below, I guess. So here is going to be our tangent curve. Now notice the negative tangent is the same shape as a cotangent curve, but its asymptotes and intercepts come from the fact that it is indeed a tangent curve. So now in a similar fashion, we're going to look at our cotangent. So we're going to factor that 1/6 out, and when you divide by 6, you multiply by 6, that's going to be 2 pi. So our period is going to be pi divided by 1/6 is going to be 6 pi. So our tick marks are going to be every fourth of a period, which is going to be every 3 pi over 2. We're going to start at a negative 2 pi. So I'm going to go negative pi. There's going to be the negative 2 pi. And remember, that's going to be a vertical asymptote because a cotangent starts with an asymptote. I'm going to put tick marks every 3 pi over 2. So if that's negative 2 pi, then this is going to be a negative pi over 2. And then I'm going to try to go about the same distance. If I add 3 pi over 2 to that, that's going to be pi. That's going to be the middle of our graph. And then this is going to be 3 halves plus 2 halves is 5 pi over 2. I got to go one more over here. And that's going to be 8 halves or 4 pi. And that's going to be our ending asymptote. So this is going to start in the middle, which is going to be at our pi, and our middle is going to be a negative 1. So there's negative 1, and there's negative pi. If we go one tick mark to the left, that's going to be negative pi over 2. Normally we would go up for a cotangent, but this is going to be reflected, so I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3. That's going to be at negative 4. And that's going to be right there at negative pi over 2. I'm going to go one tick mark to the right, and from that negative 1 y value, I'm going to go up 3. It's going to put us at 2, and that's going to be there at our 5 pi over 2. And this is going to, since it's a reflected cotangent, it's going to rise from left to right. Okay, these are tricky. See what you can do with them.